Okay, today you're going to be learning about how to edit for dialogue. Right now you have a finished story, and what you're going to do is you're going to go back into your story and you're going to take a look at where your characters are speaking, and you're going to make sure you have that dialogue completed correctly inside of your writing. So that's our focus today. It's really important that you let your readers understand what words specifically your characters are saying, because it helps them understand your story, makes it more exciting, and it makes it more fun for them to read. And it also helps you convey your message more appropriately to your writers. So today we're going to focus on going back into our writing, taking a look at where our characters are speaking, and make sure we have it punctuated correctly for that dialogue, okay? So dialogue just simply means character is speaking. They're saying exact words. We're going to take a look at that, okay? So right now, if you go back into your writing, and it looks like this, where you have characters talking and there's no punctuation to indicate that a character is actually talking, there's no dialogue, that's what you're going to want to fix. So let's take a look at this one first. It says, my mother yelled, "Happy birthday." I said, "Thank you." She said, "Would you like your birthday presents now?" "Sure," I exclaimed, after I opened my birthday presents, and that's when it all happened. So you can see in this story, two characters are talking back and forth, a mother and a kid. But there's no dialogue indicating that a specific character is saying a specific thing. So that's what we're going to want to fix. So if yours looks like this, you're going to want to make sure you go back into your writing and fix some of that, okay? So let's take a look at the next part. The first step in going back into your writing and editing for dialogue is to first find the common dialogue words. There are some common words that people use, like the words she said, she exclaimed, those kinds of things. Here are some of them. These are not all of them. These are some of them that tell you as an author that a character is speaking. So these are some of the words that tell you as an author that pretty soon a character's getting ready to talk, and you should put quotation marks around it, okay? Well, here are some of the common dialogue words. If you're not sure what they are, here they are. A very common one is the word said. So look in your writing. If you see that word said, more than likely either before or after that word, you're probably going to need quotation marks. The words answered, the word replied, the word told, questioned, exclaimed. These words are kind of like clue words that help you understand that a character is either getting ready to talk or they just talked. So let's take a look at that, all right? So what we're going to do is we're going to put a check mark over common dialogue words. So you're going to go back into your writing and you're going to put a check mark above any common dialogue words that you have in your writing. So I want to do that in my writing right here, okay? So here we can see this is that same text that I showed you before, the same story. My mother yelled, "Happy birthday." I said, "Thank you." She said, "Would you like your birthday present now?" "Sure," I exclaimed, after I opened my birthday present, and that's when it all happened. So I want to take a look just at this first one. I'm going to look for a common dialogue. So I see right here, ooh, that word yelled. That tells me that a character is getting ready to talk. So my mother yelled. There's a common dialogue word, so I know that this is probably this is the exact words that my mom said. Let's check the next sentence. Here's another common dialogue word. There's the word said. I said. So this is something a character said specifically. There's that word said again. She said, and this is what a character says, their exact words, okay? Ooh, here's another common dialogue word that popped up. There's that word exclaimed. That one tells me that, ooh, in this one, that character actually spoke before it. "Sure," I said. Okay, so that's the first step, is to go back into your writing and see if you can find those common dialogue words. Put a check mark above them. After you take a look at the common dialogue words, the next thing is to put a star over the first and last word your character is saying. All right? So you want to take a look here. Here's my sentence. My mother yelled, "Happy birthday." This is what the narrator is saying. This is what my character is saying specifically. My character's first words were happy, and her last word was birthday. So I'm going to put stars above their first word and their last word. I want to do that on all my paragraphs, or all of my sentences. So let's take a look at my next one. I said, and here's the character's exact first word, thank, and the last word is you. That's a pretty short one. Pretty short one. Let's take a look at this one. This one's a little bit longer. Ooh. She said, here's the character's first word. "Would you like your birthday present now?" And I put a star above the last word. And this one, there's only one word that this character said. They said, "Sure." So that's the first and the last word. So go back into your story. First thing you do is find those common dialogue. The next thing is to put a star above their first and their last words. Okay? After you have those stars, you're going to do this. Now we put quotation marks around the character's exact words. So if the character said, "I love writing," we put quotation marks around it. These little marks right here in red, those are called quotation marks. We put those around characters' exact words. So now I'm going to go back into my writing, and I'm going to put quotation marks around all of their words, okay? So let's take a look at this one. My mother yelled. I'm going to put quotation marks around my mother's exact words. So it goes in front of the first word and after their last word. In front of their first word, after their last word. In front of the first word, after the last word. So what I'm putting inside of quotation marks are the exact words the character said. Nothing else goes in quotation marks, just their exact words. So you can see those examples all the way down in red. See how it starts with the first word and ends with the last word. Starts with the first word, ends with the last word. Starts with the first word, ends with the last word. So you want to make sure you do that in your writing too. All right? Now, you want to make sure there's punctuation before the final quotation mark. So, look at these examples. Let's talk about this, because you see in purple I've added something else. This is called punctuation. So what you want to do, you have your quotation marks here. Now what you want to do is, before you get to your last quotation mark, make sure you put a punctuation. My mother yelled, so I know that her voice must have been loud. She yelled, "Happy birthday!" That's why I chose an exclamation point there. Make sure you have punctuation before your last quotation mark. So look at this purple punctuation. It's right before my last quotation mark. I said, "Thank you," period, quotation mark. She said, "Would you like your birthday present now?" Question mark, because it was a question, so I put a question mark, end quotation mark. And then the word "sure," they said loudly, "Sure!" Exclamation point, quotation mark. I exclaimed. So after you do the quotation marks, go in there, make sure you have punctuation. Check and make sure you have that in there. It's extremely important, okay? So make sure you have that punctuation too. Now, after you have your punctuation, you're then going to want to make sure you capitalize the first letter of the character's exact words. So I went through and I put them in red so you could see that. So you can see I've got my quotation mark, I have H for happy, and I have that punctuation at the end too. Okay? So you want to make sure, and you go and do all of those things. Make sure you have the punctuate or the capital letters. The very first letter should be capitalized in the exact words that the character says. So you can see we just finished up with making sure we have our capital letters. But there's still one last piece that we need to make sure we have. So you can see here on this example, the final step is to make sure you have those capital letters like we just talked about. But if the narrator speaks before the character speaks in the sentence or in paragraph, you want to make sure you put that comma in there. That comma sets these two things off. It says, "My mother yelled," comma, quotation mark, capital letter, "Happy birthday," punctuation, quotation mark. I said, comma, quotation mark, capital letter, "Thank you," period, quotation mark. You continue that process. So if the narrator speaks first, make sure you have that comma to separate that off, okay? So that's the final step on that. So now go back to your story and find that common dialogue. Go back in there, find your common dialogue, put a check mark above the common dialogues. The words like exclaimed, said, those kinds of words are the common dialogue. Then put stars above the first words that they say, your characters say, and the last word that they say. Then you're going to put quotation marks around the words that they're saying. Make sure you have capital letter and punctuation inside of your quotation marks. If the character speaks first, if the narrator speaks first, make sure you have a comma before that, okay? So your writing should look like this when you're all finished. You should have a comma if the narrator speaks first, quotation marks, capital letter, the exact words of the character, punctuation, and then a quotation mark at the end. Good luck. Get back in there. You can do it.